Welcome to COVID and Climate Change Correlations, a weekly video podcast where I, Daniel Sanderson, engage in a stimulating conversation with post-Keynesian economist Steve Keen. To another episode of the New Economics, COVID and Climate Correlations. Effectively, it's the Steve Keen Show. So here we are, welcoming back Steve Keen, and the background is really interesting.
They're paintings by my brother-in-law, who I'm living with, of an Australian comedian called Ang Gang. I think that's him. And he was a boat person, a refugee who got to Australia by boat. And the other guy's an Aboriginal elder.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's a very good artist, my brother-in-law. So I quite like having that as a background.
Yeah, well, it's, we could change it up. I think that's fine. We can leave that.
Okay, yeah.
Is this will be the new home base for a while?
For a while, yes, as long as I'm in Australia. And until if I move here permanently, then I'll have to get somewhere else to stay because there's someone from Nice to come and stay with me and that sort of jazz. But while I'm here, getting things ready, it's staying at my brother-in-law and sister's place.
So the difference between short and long term is if the election is called in the spring, and let's just say that it doesn't go in your favor, you're kind of then moving back.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. But if it does in my favor, then I'm making a permanent move to Australia.
Right. Okay. And is that a move you're looking forward to, or that's just how the destiny will kind of unfold?
Just how it unfolds. I mean, the advantage, if I actually do win, then what it means is that rather than failing to get the ears of politicians, which is what I've been doing for the last 20 years, I'll have the mouth of a politician.
Yes.
And that makes it possible, not a given, but it makes it quite likely when I say something, particularly if it's taken as being outrageous, then it'll get reported. Whereas at the moment, I can't get stuff into the mainstream media. Yeah. So it's a little idea of how to be more effective.
Okay, we got a nice hot cup of coffee being handed to me by the star of the show, who doesn't want to be in the show. You know what I mean?
No, I know the story. Same with my wife. She's now a fair distance away. She's in Thailand, and I'm here. So
yeah. So okay, I have kind of and I want to say that I'm kind of stupid with this question. It's a very naive question, right? We had Jürgen Randers on a couple episodes ago, and so he's a part of the Norwegian Business School, right? So this is
at the moment, that's where he's based. Yeah,
and from what I understand with him, he's he's been involved with China and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of it's somewhat of a specialty for him, and so that's really interesting. I wish we had not 1 hour, but 15 hours or whatever.
Oh, with him, for sure.
Yeah, and so there's this group that goes into a network of people that goes into the Club of Rome, and they're constantly analyzed with some of the brightest minds, that think about climate, economics, and are they revising any of their economic models with your influence that you're aware of?
I'm actually on the advisory body,
okay.
But it's not. I mean, I'm not. If I was going to put an advisory body together, I'd do it with a lot more funding than we've got and a lot more of a chance for engagement. So you basically get involved in conversations, and the conversations then affect what Randers is doing in terms of the modelling. So Randers and one research assistant are doing the actual modelling of a revised, not so much a revised version of World 3 or even World 4, but a new model with the same basic idea. But they realised the weakness of the last one was that it was incomprehensible to policymakers. So they're trying to find some way of putting it into a framework where policymakers can understand the interface. And that's really about how they structure it. So it's got things like well-being, for example, is one of the variables. Now, I haven't had a look at the model myself yet. It apparently still does the same systemic analysis that limits to growth did, but it interfaces differently with the real world in how it does that. So like the limits to growth was based on initially a 70-year empirical study that let them get a set of indices they thought were of significance and then tie them all together, and the model itself was extremely detailed. So, for example, in population, they had a cohort of 0 to 15, 15 to 45, I think 45 to 64, 64 to 80. And then, of course, the model therefore had to have you moving from one cohort to the other as you got older, or the population got older. So they'd start with a particular age distribution and then model that through time. That, to me, was an unnecessary complication because it's just simply a simple population variable may have been enough. And what you would have broken it down by is not by age, but say by income, social class, that sort of thing. So there may be those sorts of insights going into what Randers is working on. But we're not like physically working together on the model itself. We have conversations out of which he takes advice and then he continues doing the modeling. It's unfortunately, like I've been involved in a couple of exercises where you had a group leader doing a sort of expert interrogation that led to modeling structures being built on the fly, and then you could see their interaction. So a guy working in the CSIRO is brilliant at working out the overall, whether you have amplifying or dampening feedbacks, just depending on the structure of a model. And he does that for fisheries analysis. So you can actually get a bunch of people and say, how long do you reckon the fish stock would last if you reduce the water flow from this river, that sort of thing. And then they put it in and then see what the model does. Oh, that's too extreme. It shouldn't react that much. The drought of 74 didn't have that big an impact, et cetera, et cetera. So you continue fine-tuning it until such time as the model replicates the experience of the people who are advising the creator. Now, that takes a lot of time. You've got to pay for people's time to be in one place just talking about it and then intensely working with an expert to redesign it. And you'd imagine the Club of Rome does have that sort of money, but it doesn't. So this is all being done volunteer by the people who get involved. The Club of Rome has some paid staff, but nothing like the number of paid economists there are in the world, for example. So it's not done anywhere near as well as I would like, but it's mainly because of resource constraints rather than the people themselves.
Well, I think you can appreciate this, Steve, then. The suggestion that I'm going to make is that I do think that if we deal with what's in front of us from a practical standpoint and say that that single biggest objection or obstacle in front of us is financial, then I think maybe you have enough infantry around you, to try and do something that might start to replicate a little more, right? And so we can explore that a little bit. But it's something organic is what I'm trying to say, right? I mean, we're working on a course for planksip, my media outlet, and there's a paid version and a non-paid version. We've already been working on the Steve Keen course, whether or not we go ahead with it or not, but it is something that I'm working on. And I think that there's a way to channel some of that towards this cause, right? And I think what I'm trying to describe is that I'm a doer, Steve. I'm a doer. So the thing is I'm frustrated and I don't know what to do. And what does Daniel have at his disposal? Because I have a really hard time with that entrepreneurial sort of mindset to say that anybody's going to ever give us anything. Right? And it may
happen.
We've
got to raise money instead.
And there are micro ways to go. So I'm in Canada, right? And so the CBC is a body that does this sort of like sponsors initiatives of various kinds, right? And so I'm just throwing an idea that just is coming to me now. I actually didn't even think to bring the CBC up, but if we had pitched something like we wanted to do a series that did this, that brought other economists together and and put this in in some sort of a structure, then we could actually pitch it for what? Like, would we get a some sort of how could we make that some sort of like significance, right? Rather than, these kinds of events where you get on and you got a panel and then nothing really happens. Like, how do we start to get something to galvanize from that level is basically what I'm trying to ask.
Well, that's partly why I've gone for the political route, because that's obviously a way of galvanizing. For me, it's my own individual effort. But in terms of galvanizing to get change on economic policy courtesy of climate change, then that's, and again, my contribution has been trying to point out how bad the work of economists is, and then drag in scientists to say economists shouldn't be involved in this at all, throw them out. So I've got my own initiative on that with my little research group, which looks like we're about to get our first publication. Okay. I got the feedback today. I've got to revise and resubmit, so I'm going to be working on that today. But the other is there's a group of scientists who've started what's called planetarylimits.net, and their idea is to pull together people from a wide range of disciplines and unite to say what are our main enemies in achieving real change on climate change. So they're trying to galvanize as well. But it really is two things: pulling people together with knowledge from a wide range of fields, and then getting them to agree on what's causing the problem in terms of communicating how dangerous this is. And largely we're agreed it's the economists who are causing the trouble. So we're going to try to argue for the elimination of economists from actions on climate change.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But in terms of general galvanizing, I mean, I'd love to be earning enough money from a product sale of some sort that could finance what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's where Musk is doing so brilliantly. His personal ambition is to get to Mars. So he's doing it by establishing an internet providing system in space, which he's the only person who can do it because he's the only private company with the capacity to launch that many satellites. So you need something which gives you a unique edge. It means you can get revenue out of that, and the revenue then finances what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. And that's at such a big, massive scale, right? I mean, the Musk story is, I'd be at odds if I was teaching an entrepreneurial class and start to put people like that as a figurehead, Jobs and Musk and stuff like that, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are in various degrees of the kids that are standing out selling knickknacks by the cruise ship terminals, right, all the way up to Elon Musk flying into space. So I mean, there are principles that we can teach, but is success measured by ultra billionaire? I think there's so many degrees of success that are a part of that functioning market. And my my advice to a fellow liberal would be to say generate things that can grow from the ground up, right? Because if the conservatives beat us by in any kind of like an observation, it's like, hey guys, we don't want a top-down sort of argument. We want something in society to kind of naturally grow, like that libertarian sort of thing, right? But I think it's very flawed, this libertarian. But we still want to be able to have a feedback that will allow the earthlings to germinate and the seeds to develop and the virtues to develop and these kinds of things, right? And sometimes I think that the liberal tradition is maybe forgetting about that. So the question is, I get into a long little verbal essay. So the question is, do you see virtue ethics on the rise, or do you see them as a part of political life?
Well, in terms of what you mean, the idea of growing organically, and one thing I've been trying to do is I have a software package that I think I could sell and make a large amount of money out of, and that would then fund what I'm doing. And the problem is I have to finish to the stage where I can show it to other people to get the funding to continue developing it, because the little flaws mean it doesn't quite do what it's supposed to do. But my ambition was to get that to the stage where I could sell it for something of the order of anywhere between $100 million and $1 billion to a software major, and then finance what I want to do, which is really to raise awareness about climate change, help prepare for the catastrophe I think we're going to be into, and promote non-orthodox economics so that there's a replacement for this nonsense when it becomes obvious to everybody else that we should never have used it in the first place. So we should talk about that later and after we finish recording and see what the possibilities are. But that has always been an ambition, to have a financial base that means I can have the same sort of independence Musk has to pursue a worthwhile objective.
Can we keep going with it on? I think this is interesting, because I'm curious. Like, you're doing all of the things that you describe now, right? It's just the amplified voice is not there. Basically, is what I'm hearing. Yeah. So I know. Here's the thing. You said a range of between several hundred million to, like, there's a big range for your software, right? So it's incredibly valuable software. It's a lot of money. What, like, do you have any idea how that would transform you and your message? Like, would you talk about trying to donate to major universities and set up?
No,
nothing like that.
I'd assemble a research group. I mean, I know.
Right. Okay.
There are about 30 people that I know that I want to pull in and say, stop what you're doing. Here's funding for you for the rest of your lives. There's not a salary. This is a permanent stipend. Come and do what you're doing without the constraints of having to tutor classes or write research papers for a consulting firm or build models on demand for central banks for other countries and pull them together so we really produce, start from the germination of the non-linear complex systems monetary approach to economics that I've constructed, and then build it without constraints and hire people who are doing it for the love of it. And one obvious person is Blair Fix, for example. Okay? And I had two of my ex-staff at Kingston who are currently building large-scale differential equation models of developing countries for the French Development Agency. Well, I'd like to be able to say, they do a lot of good work, but it's all these little disparate bits, which if you could pull them all together, then you'd have a powerhouse to develop this stuff quickly. And equally, the Minsky software, hypercharge getting it to the point where its usability becomes such that first-year students could use it, and accessibility becomes such that politicians could understand it. That's those sorts of objectives. So I just drag people out of the universities and research organizations and so on, and fund them to do it, work with me indefinitely in a powerhouse. And that's what we need.
I'll give you one piece of advice, and then we're going to move on. I'm actually working with a guy that has a seismic anchor. It's a seismic ball anchor that attaches to a curtain wall, which is a facade that goes on high rise. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So he has an engineering mindset, and I think you suffer a little bit from the engineering mindset because you're an academic, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. The idea is that we have to get it completely perfect before we present it. Now, for app and adoption and all this kind of thing, but you need a partnered a software company. I think you should, and think about it. I'm not putting you on the spot, but sooner the better. You can start talking to companies about it, right?
Yeah.
They can see, what this is about. I can offer, whatever I can in terms of, the resources that I have. But again, looking at everything that we have, we might be able to make a compelling case to that software developer that's looking for that innovative, shit, man, it's an enormous gift to society, basically. Yeah, it seems to be growing.
The workload. Well, you did say you're a doer.
Yeah, I'm a doer. Well, we want to, just direct me. Remember, there was one clip that we did, and we put this little video image of the World War I guy. He could have been in the Boer War. I don't know. It looked like it was but he was holding an old gun. And you're like, I thought I was going to be in infantry, but I guess I'm a general or something like this. And you're, and it's showing the guy running through the fields, dodging bullets and stuff like that. So that's the thing. I don't look at the clips as much, right? But I was going through them all, and they're kind of fun, they
are fun. You do a good job with
stuff
those.
Like that. Yeah. So I've had fun doing them, and I think it's looking forward to kind of the next split. So I'm going to change it up. I think when we go into 2022 here.
Not very far away, just over a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm writing my retrospective. Yep. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I want to hear about the retrospective, but I was going to ask you, did you want to have a break over the week, because it's kind of like
I have a break next week because I've got to getting all the stuff ready for being standing for election. I've got to get all that done. So maybe take a break next week. Take one break and then we go on. We start in the first week of January. Okay. But my retrospective on that front, I was thinking about we're coming into the third year of the decade of the 2020s. And my little thought about it was that people, first of all, 2019 was a great year. And 2020, holy shit, what the fuck was that? Let's get into 2021 and things will get better. Oh my God, 2021's a disaster. What's going to happen? And I thought you could actually call the 2020s the hold my beer decade. Because you complain about the year that's just gone. So 2021 says, hold my beer. And we're complaining about 2021 and 2022 saying, hold my beer. Okay. Yeah. So it's just getting more and more extreme. And I think people have, when you realize the level of exhaustion that people have about this, and it's still happening. And now we end the year with a new highly virulent variant. People are praying that it's less highly contagious. They're hoping it's less virulent. I think that's still a bit of a wing and a prayer. No guarantee that that's the case. That maybe the demographics is coming out of that explain the lower rates so far. We just won't know until it starts exploding in winter in Europe and America. Of course, that's where we are right now. But at the same time, have you seen some of the temperature levels that are turning up in the Arctic?
No. What's
11 degrees Celsius.
Oh, shit.
Okay. Now, this is winter. It's supposed to be minus 20. So we're getting incredible anomalies up there. And this potentially is implying that one of the side effects of of losing the Arctic is that we lose the three distinct circulation bands in the atmosphere, and therefore, rather than having a banded climate where it's hot around the equator, temperate around the temperate zone, and freezing in the pole, if those three circulation patterns break down, we simply have one huge circulation system on each hemisphere, and the temperature is fairly the same all the way through, because it's not the direct sunlight that we feel most of the heat from. It's the reflected heat from all the greenhouse gases. That's why, like, if it wasn't that, then at night the temperature might plunge to minus 60, minus 80 degrees. But it doesn't get that cold because it's mainly the heat being transferred convectively through the atmosphere that gives us the overall temperature of the planet. But nonetheless, what we have is, because the equator is the equator to 30 degrees is the Hadley cell. That's its own circulation system. And the air mixes a bit, but it generally tends to circulate around that. Then you get the subtropical in the other direction. G'day, Scott. And then you get the polar, which is well and truly insulated from the others. Well, that breaks down. We'll have potentially roughly the same temperature, slightly warmer at the equator than the poles. Like the equator might be 30, 35 degrees, the poles might be 22 degrees. Now, if that's starting to happen right now, it's very hard to interpret getting temperatures now, like December, of 11 degrees in the Arctic Circle.
Yeah. But I think we got an echo. But
have we got an echo?
Yeah, I can hear an echo.
Scott, you say something again?
No.
Hi, Scott. But am I getting it correct though, Steve? That it would be a more homogeneous.
It's called the equable Earth. If you search on the web for equable Earth, you'll find a description of it. And this is why we had dinosaurs and alligators and so on in the Arctic Circle, because with the higher level of the temperature, the three circulation cells break down into one circulation cell, and that therefore means that the heat of the equator is distributed to the pole, and the cool of the pole is distributed to the equator. So you get a hot equator, but a warm pole. You don't have cold anywhere. And the other danger is that because most of your rising air is around the equator, most of your falling air is around the pole, and those are the two areas where you get precipitation. In the median band from 20 to 70 degrees, you don't get much rainfall.
Yeah.
And that is challenging, because 20 to 70 degrees is where most of humanity lives.
Yes, it does. And okay, so I mean, how does the projected time scale of that scenario look versus the shutting down of the AMOC, right? How does that compare? Right?
These were both things people thought wouldn't happen until 2100. Okay. So like there's the last paper that I read on the breakdown of the circulation cells said that wouldn't happen until 5.5 degrees Celsius increase. But that was a model looking just at the temperature increase to say what level of heating is such that the cells will expand and then merge, and then you won't have the three, you'll have one. But this is a paper by James Anderson, who was the guy who discovered the hole in the ozone layer, professor of atmospheric chemistry at Harvard University. Very, very reserved man, and very much a applied research scientist. He published a paper in 2018 that said that all you need for that to happen is not this increase in temperature, but simply eliminating the Arctic as a heat reflector. So when it's fully covered in ice, it reflects 90% of the radiation that falls on it. When it's fully broken down, it absorbs 90%. So that one change will mean, and also at the same time, we've had the rate of change of temperature in the Arctic is 5 times the average for the planet. The rate of change of the equator is half the average. So what you've got for the equator is about half a degree warmer, okay? But the poles are about 2.5 to 3 degrees warmer. Actually, no, about 5 degrees warmer, because the average is about between 1 and 1.2. So that trend itself initially, then losing the reflective side of the Arctic, is saying this flip could happen this decade.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like commanding, or sort of like unequivocal. It's like information to say that it's reflecting 90%, and then the paper comes out, and the fact that that's the knowledge, that's the takeaway, that it's so definitive, it's almost common sense, and yet we, what to do about it? That's the story, or we know what to do about it. As I talk with climate friends, we know what to do about it, but we just don't.
You don't do it.
We don't do it.
That's again the Economist coming in and saying it's trivial. I mean, I did a seminar with Richard Toll on last week in Russia, appallingly badly recorded, unfortunately, and I still haven't seen the actual recording of it. But to give you an idea, it was a Zoom get together, and the Russian guy who was supposed to manage the whole thing, he was the moderator. All you ever saw was his image. stage. He let me and 3 other people in, and then he disappeared. And the bloke who was actual chair was trying to get in for 25 minutes. And I said, look, this is a farce. Shut this bloody thing down. Hang on a second. I've got a call coming in. I better take it. Do you mind if we pause for a second?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Hello, Steve Kane. Yes. Sorry, guys. I'm getting medical procedures done while I'm here, and that was one I had to make a booking for. So, yeah.
I could have just cut it out. I stopped the recording.
Well, that might be necessary.
Yeah.
Surgically speaking.
Okay. Yeah. You have something that needs cut out. Okay.
I've got to have a prostate cancer check. That's what's going on.
Oh, man. Okay. I'm 45, and that scares me, and I'm told I have to grow up.
I have grown it up, and it still scares me. But that's one reason I'm getting all this stuff done. I just want to over here. I want to know what the state of my body is. Take a complete stock take before the next decade rolls over me.
Yeah, and it will go fast, right? I think we all know that. And back to the COVID scenario. Apparently, what I think is being projected is that we'll have these like increased events, I guess, around Christmas time, the gathering time, the time of the solstice, and basically when there's more people inside than outside, this kind of thing. So the idea, I think, is for the next 3 to 4 years, it's supposed to still be kind of going in waves like this. And do you have any thoughts? I mean, I know not. Do you think much about it? Not really from an.
Oh, too much. I mean, I'd rather be thinking about other things. But yeah, it's one of the arguments about why the Spanish flu disappeared is that it got a version which was more transmissible and less virulent, and that's the hope that people have forgot that will happen to COVID ultimately. But I think the thing is, apparently the only disease that's more transmissible than the Omicron version is the measles. And of course, we've finally developed a very effective vaccine against the measles, and that's pretty much eliminated, except against total morons in various parts of the United States. But it's with that level of transmissibility, then it can do whatever it likes in terms of virulence. And the hope, we're sort of hoping that if Omicron isn't the one, then we could be in real trouble, because if it's just as dangerous as Delta, and we still really don't know, and it's incredibly transmissible, so as bad as measles, then it's effectively got the transmissibility nailed. Okay? So then the question is, if there's any increase in virulence, if it goes with no change in the transmissibility, we're in deep shit.
Not.
Yeah. So this just points out the absurdity of the whole live with Delta, live with COVID nonsense that people like Boris Johnson and co went on with, because the experts, and the person I defer to there is Yaniv Bar-Yam, said, look, with a 6-week effective lockdown in every country on the planet, we can get rid of this thing completely. We can just eliminate it from the planet's genome. We would have left it, whatever animal reservoir it came out of, that's where it would have stayed. And it would have been a 6-week, really hard, really sharp, well managed, and that would be the end of it. I said, oh no, that's too expensive. Yeah, well, look what the alternative is. We're 2 years into this damn thing now, and it may be another 5 years before we see any type of slowdown, and we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 3. So it's one of those cases where thinking like an economist is thinking like a suicide bomber.
Yeah, and I think about it, and I think Australia seemed to have it correct, but it seems the longer this goes on, it seems like the narrative starts to rationalize things. You
have people doing it almost right, but not quite. So Australia did a better job of providing people with cash incentives not to have to go to work, for example. But as usual, the whole idea, it's costing too much money. They stopped doing it effectively, and the idea, well, let's just not do anything and learn to live with the virus. People learning to live with the virus by not shopping, and the economy is tanking as a result of that. So it is. You just look at how badly we've done not a totally disastrous job. But what we've ended up doing has given us a far more virulent version of the vaccine, an exhaustion for people of going through lockdown after lockdown after lockdown. But if we'd done it properly, one lockdown would have been enough. And it's the way we've mangled it, I think, means we're going to be stuck with it for at least another half decade.
So do you think we could do that on a national basis? I guess I would say if Australia took a very similar approach, if we all took a very similar approach to Australia and just nation at a time, if something flared up, we just snuffed it out. rather than, I think what you're describing is that if we like a coordinated effort, or
it's so long as each country does it effectively. Guinea's idea was that you have a 6-week period where you do a lockdown. In that 6-week period, everybody who's not an essential worker stays at home.
Yeah.
And the essential workers are simply people who make food, deliver food, keep the internet going, keep the sewage system working, keep the water system going, ambulances, doctors, and so on. They're the only ones who go to work, and you give them all the protection you can. And an idea of another colleague of mine, there's George Church and a guy called Brian Hanley. And Brian Hanley is a vaccine producer and inventor. And he said we should be developing vaccines, rapidly developing, the vaccines we're all not taking now, the Pfizers and the Modernas, they were made in a couple of weeks, okay? Because with modern, CRISPR technology and so on, I'm not sure if it's actually CRISPR, it sounds like it's something else. But with that technology, once you know the genome, you can produce the vaccine, you can produce a virus, or you can say this is a way of taking the spike protein. We generate an RNA strand that creates the spike protein. We can wrap that up in a container that means it can be injected into the body. It'll get inside the cells. I think it's the ribosomes, I'm not sure, that do the reproduction, that then read that instruction, and then that RNA becomes the protein, and then the body's own defense system says, hey, where did the protein come from? And then starts finding out ways of trapping and both inside the cell and between the cell. So that's the idea. And he's saying the very first waves, if you do it with DNA technology, apparently, again, I'm repeating what I know from experts. I'm not an expert myself or what they've told me. Then you can give it to people and it's ultra safe. It doesn't cause any immune reaction. So when the thing comes up, develop the vaccine, vaccinate everybody in the health industry so they're safe from the disease. Then start vaccinating delivery people and so on. Isolate everybody so they're in their homes for 2 weeks. They can't leave. During that 2-week period, you identify the homes that do have COVID and the ones that don't have COVID. The ones that don't have COVID can then come out and go to work. The ones with COVID, you lock them for a further 2 weeks, and you then see if anybody in the group itself has got the COVID. You isolate those who have it and see if those who are left catch it. And then once you find who has not caught it, again, the ones that catch it go to special facilities for treatment for COVID, and the ones that don't have it allowed out. And so 2-week periods followed by another 2-week just to mop up, and we could have eliminated the virus completely.
Yeah.
But now, of course, it's in animal reservoirs. All sorts of animals can catch. So even if we managed to do that with humans, we can't get the animals to quarantine. So the odds are it's going to continue coming back into human circulation.
Oh goodness, that's so now you got a DNA based early experimental injection. So now, if I understood from your explanation, that you'd mentioned that there's no with the DNA based injection, there's no I guess flare up on your immune system. Is that correct? So you could actually.
No, I had no reaction at all to that vaccine.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I had a small reaction to the first AstraZeneca, which was I was pleasantly sleepy and had a very nice day, just falling in out of bed and sleeping and waking up again, and no reaction to the second AstraZeneca. And then I had a Pfizer when I arrived in Australia, and for the Pfizer I had a strong headache and a very sore arm. And but then about 2 or 3 days later that was okay. But one of my friends, and he's not a vaccine skeptic at all, he's actually a vaccine promoter. He said one of his friends, one of his son's friends, about 19 years old, had an aneurysm and is in critical position in hospital. So it does seem that the part of the anti-vaxxer argument, this is dangerous, are true for the younger age groups. It seems still that the vaccines that we've generated, which are second and third generation rather than first generation in terms of a line of defense, they are potentially dangerous. Not to everybody. It's still a statistical thing.
Yeah.
Because this kid is one of the unlucky ones who had that particular genetic makeup that meant he responded badly to the vaccine. His autoimmune system went crazy and had an aneurysm. So it's still, it's still difficult no matter what way you do it. There's no golden solution. But the best thing would have been trying that hard 6-week lockdown and eliminating it completely. And we could have done it, but now it's too late, I think.
So now this brings up a question of ethics, and I think it just jumped out of a discussion group on John Stuart Mill, so he's fresh in my mind. The greatest good. So I think, does this sound right to you that the medical profession pretty much defaults to the greatest good for the greatest number of people? Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, as an essential part of being a medical professional. But you then also say, well, we're looking at the endemic level, not just an individual, but the whole system. What set of procedures are going to minimize the number of deaths and the amount of ongoing damage? And that's the sort of direction that the medical professionals go in. And most of them have come down and said, look, just, do an effective lockdown, get rid of it that way. But unfortunately, it's the economists and the politicians came back the other way and live with the virus type nonsense. And now we're living with the fifth major variation of the virus. Well, that's great.
Yeah, it's such a shame. So almost, I guess we just have to distance ourselves from that. It's like, Barack Obama's book. That's what it makes me think about. He had the way it should have been. That's how he approached Obamacare. And then later on in his memoir, he said, I guess I had to be more practical in the approach, and I should have taken into consideration human nature, and it should have been part of our predictive models. And I want to go back to the earlier part of the the show when we were talking about the the various different economic models, and we were using Jürgen Randers as an example.
Yeah.
Has there been any work from economists to do several different models all at one time and measure them in a, like this economic model is doing, this approach, this one's doing here, this one's doing better, and then actually see how the models are actually run in real time? Is that something?
Well, there are three main models in economics, what they call integrated assessment models. There's DICE, which is Nordhaus's, there's PAGE, who explained to a guy called Chris Hope, and there's FUND, which my dear friend Richard Toll designed. And what they've really done is cross-calibrate, so they give much the same results. But their results are, like the last result came out of Chris Hope's PAGE model, published in a paper this year. And his prediction was that a 4-degree increase in temperature by 2100 will cause, and I'm not joking, a 3.67% fall in GDP compared to what it would be in the absence of climate change. And that is just, it stinks to high fucking heaven. It's more damn bullshit. But so they've calibrated so they get similar results, not calibrated so they get realistic results. So whereas the scientists, they do the ensemble approach. So there's a whole ensemble of models, and they make an ensemble prediction out of them, and then they back check over how it compares with historic data. And of course, and then also paleontological data. So a huge correction for the what they call global circulation models, GCMs, that scientists use, is can it reproduce a given climate in the historic past?
Mm.
And that like even that I know for a start, for example, that they all necessarily include both temperature and precipitation. Now, the economic models, and this is admitted by the Dietz paper, the one on tipping points, 2021, the economic models only work on temperature. So they leave precipitation out. And there's one instance where that was applied by Richard Toll to say that losing the AMOC would be a good idea. The AMOC went down completely, so you lost all of that heat transfer from the equator to northern Europe. That would improve global GDP by 1.1%. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, he actually says in that like you see, he says it in a vague way, which is typical of economists. Most IAMs work only in temperature or something of that nature. And then he said, we assume that the other climate variables move in the same direction. So he's got an idea of an optimal temperature, which climate change pushes you further from, and AMOC pushes you back a bit in the right direction. So he's just simply assuming that precipitation will also improve. Well, when you look at the GCMs, and there's one just put out by the OECD about maybe 6 weeks ago, they say that, well, when temperature goes down because of the AMOC, precipitation plunges. You get a drought over the main wheat farming areas of the world. Then if you include temperature increase, the drought gets worse. So, and their prediction was that not saying the actual areas that are devoted to farming, but saying the part of the planet which has the right temperature and rainfall patterns for wheat, the amount of, if the AMOC goes in the context of a 2.5-degree increase in global temperature, then the percentage of the earth which is amenable for wheat farming will fall from 20% to 7%.
Wow.
Proportion amenable to corn, I think, will fall from 14% to about 5%, and the proportion amenable to rice will rise from 2% to about 3%. Now, that 50% increase in the amount of land suitable for rice in no way compensates for the fall in the amount that's available for wheat and for corn. So what they're predicting is effectively about a 60 or 70% fall in food production if the AMOC goes and we have a 2.5 degree temperature increase. And that is one that, according to The Economist, is going to improve the global GDP.
Well, somehow we've evolved this stomach that can just kind of, like a perpetual energy machine that can just kind of somehow produce energy or something.
Well, yeah, they don't even, again, this leaving energy out is a huge part of their problems. So they've set us up for catastrophe, and they think they're doing good. And this is what, this is why I don't want lack of knowledge to be a defense against being tried for ecocide, because the negligence that they've practiced in this whole thing is just breathtaking. And when people look at it, as I have done, but looking at the context of environmental catastrophes and the number of deaths that it causes and so on, I hope they're as unforgiving as I intend being.
Yeah, because it's almost to the point that we can say that there's negligence by continuing to use this model.
Yeah, definitely.
I know that's specifically what the claim is.
Yeah.
And then you made the point earlier too. We're getting close to the end of the show, but you made the point earlier. You said that the other scientific fields, they're going to take other scientists' experiments and try and replicate their experiments and kind of vet it. Now, in economics, it's not quite possible, but that's why there's models. And so they, but it shouldn't be. I don't get this idea how they like fine tune, align their models so that you basically fine tune them so that they kind of jive. I don't get how that's.
Partly it's just they want to give similar predictions. They don't want to be outside the envelope everybody else is in. A bit like a follow the leader approach. Okay. And once you give too much credibility to the leader, then people, when they run their model and they don't get a result like the leader gets, so I better tweak some of the parameters. And that's what you find them going and doing. So, I mean, the fact that Chris Hope came out and was, pleased that his model gave similar results to Nordhaus, that's not a reason to be pleased. That's a reason to be skeptical of the results.
Yeah.
And particularly when you start, I mean, there are 3 papers that came out just in the last few months. Dietz and Co., 6 degree increase in temperature and losing all the major tipping points on the planet would reduce GDP by 1.4%. That's just a joke. There's something wrong with the analysis. Hope comes out and says a 4 degree increase in temperature will drop GDP by 3.67%. First of all, that's totally fallacious precision. Mm-hmm. Anybody who publishes that doesn't, that's I know he's got a range about that, but to say that's precisely, I'm sorry, round it down. Don't even pretend that you can predict GDP in 2100 to 2 decimal places. We can't get it right to 1 decimal place today. That's just crazy. And then the other one was Khan and Mahadi's and a few others, and they said that a 0.04 degrees Celsius increase per year for 80 years would end up reducing GDP by 6.77%. Same sort of, I got it wrong, 7.22%. The same sort of crazy artificial precision. And the thing is, they all think what they've shown is really scary. When they write it up, they talk to journalists, this is a worrying increase in the social cost of carbon, and this is much, much worse than another result, and it's really worth avoiding losing that 7% of GDP. Talk to a politician, you're telling me that you say global warming is going to reduce GDP in 80 years to 7% less than it would have been if there's no global warming? Yeah, okay, that's fabulous. Okay, so what have I got to say on stage? Just keep the greenies quiet, and then I'm going to do bugger all when I get back home behind closed doors. So that is classic saying it's somebody else's problem. A politician who's not even born yet is going to have to deal with that, okay? Not my problem. And then that explains, I think, in a large way, the complete inactivity of all the meetings we've had, and nothing serious has been done. And we're treating like we've got Nazis on the beach, and we're treating them like mosquitoes on the beach.
Yeah, decisive action needs to take place. I mean, my perspective. I think it should be similar to yours, a wartime approach. We should be.
Yeah. But we have to realize you're in a war before you fight one, and that's the public. If the public had been sufficiently forewarned by the limits to growth, and thought, oh, this is actually serious, we should make small adjustments now, which would have been 50 years ago. Quite literally 50 years ago next year. Then we could have gradually got there, and we would never even notice the fact we'd made a transition. Okay?
So do you think that, is there an inevitability to this argument that, we're going to see pockets of people trying to hoard wealth, for whatever oncoming apocalypse?
That's already happening. That's already happening, yeah.
I'm using that as an exaggeration. I'm not really, but
Some people who are wealthy enough to do it are trying to insulate themselves from the consequences, definitely. But others, like even some of those who are doing it, are denialists about it actually happening. There's a major financial firm owner whom I know who owns an island off the Caribbean, who's set the whole thing up so it's completely self-sufficient, but doesn't believe in global warming.
Right.
So he can afford an insurance policy for himself in case he's wrong, and that's what he's done. Okay, but he doesn't actually think it's happening. So we have an enormous amount of cognitive dissonance coming our way.
Yeah. Something that I've heard, quite often. It seems I heard that 3 times a day on the CBC broadcast.
Oh yeah,
an expert telling somebody, well, the problem is there's too much cognitive dissonance going on. And I thought, why don't you just say, our guest is really not that smart. Right? Like it's because the person doesn't know what it means. So they're like, I what did he say? I got to look that up. I think,
there's a novel which I read I'm a great fan of sci-fi, but there hasn't been great sci-fi for many years, in my opinion. But there was one book I found called The Windup Girl. And it was about a post-apocalyptic Bangkok, of all things, where the global warming had just turned the whole of Bangkok into an archipelago again, and the same applied for most of the rest of the world. And there was no more motorized transport. It was all people would actually ride a bicycle to transfer energy to a flywheel, and that was then how you'd hop on the machine with the flywheel to get around, and so on. A lot of genetic engineering. But in it, and the main personality in the book, apart from the woman herself, a wind-up girl, she's genetically engineered, and she moves in a jerky fashion. She's as an entertainer. But the other character is an American who is trying to use this firm as a front for some other activities. And at some point, people burst into the room with machine guns, and he's about to get shot. And the author's line is, the sudden realization that the world he understood is not the one in which he actually lives.
Yeah.
Great line.